Hey, what's up you guys? Nico from Team Hydroflare here, bringing you another What to Side video, episode 3. I'm going to be showing you guys 4 cards to side here. You've probably seen a couple of them commonly used in previous formats, sided in, or maybe mained in some certain decks. But I think the reason people that don't side them anymore because they just don't understand how good that they can be this format. So let me just throw this right at you. We're going to jump right into it, get into a little discussion, explain some combos. So here are the cards. First card, Dimensional Fissure. I think any Yu-Gi-Oh player knows what Dimensional Fissure does. Any monster sent to the graveyard is banished instead. Okay, simple enough. Nothing goes to the graveyard anymore. No monsters go to the graveyard anymore. This could really hurt a lot of decks. Dragon Rulers decks use Dragon Shrine. Monster sent straight to the graveyard. A Blue Eyes deck can't search with Whitestone to Legend. Mermail decks are extremely hurt. They can't get the Dragoons effect. They can't get the Atlantean effects. They can't get Gundy or Linde effect. That hurts them a lot more than you guys know. Dark Worlds get hurt. They don't get Grapha's banished. Grapha's their main beat stick. They don't get Snow, Brow, Beige. They don't get any of their effects. It's got to be discarded to the graveyard. Even if it's discarded to the graveyard, it gets sent to the banish pile so they don't get the effect anymore. It seems simple enough. So I think Dimensional Fissure is a great card to side because it hurts a lot of decks. Like, I don't think people understand how much it really hurts. So, Dimensional Fissure is just one of those cards. It's a standard side in my opinion. Moving on to its trap counterpart, Macrocosmos. Macrocosmos, when it resolves, lets you special summon Helios Primordial Sun. But that's not really the important part in my opinion. When it's face up on the field, any card sent to the graveyard is banished instead. It says card. That's right, meaning spells and traps are sent to the graveyard, are sent to the banish pile too instead of the graveyard. Now this is really good because Dimensional Fissure, unlike Macrocosmos, says any monster sent to the graveyard is banished instead. That's bad to an extent. If your opponent has 2 monsters and goes for an XYZ summon, when they detach that material, it's no longer considered a monster. So that material actually does get sent to the graveyard. And you never know. Your opponent could actually make a play out of that. If they had double Grapha, they can go for Felgrand, use the effect, and just bring back Grapha. Macrocosmos would send that XYZ material to the banish pile. It sends MSTs, Forbidden Lances, Mirror Forces, all that shenanigans to the banish pile once it's used. So there's really no recycling once this card resolves. In my opinion, I like Macrocosmos more than Dimensional Fissure purely for this reason. It shuts down decks like Mermails, Dark Worlds, shuts down Plant Rulers to an extent. I mean, sure, the Dragon Rulers get their search abilities when they're banished, but once they're banished, they can't bring them back anymore ever again. Since they're limited at 1, that could hurt a lot of Dragon decks a lot, because a lot of them rely off of being able to go for that Draco Sack, being able to go for that Big Eye. So, in my opinion, Macrocosmos is better than Dimensional Fissure. I don't know, that may differ in some people's eyes, but regardless of which one is preferred, the banish ability is just great and it could shut down a lot of decks. So that's the first 2 sections, the first of the 2 sections, the ability to just banish cards. So we're going to move on to the second part, which is back row hate. I think most of the Yu-Gi-Oh community can agree with me when we say I hate back row. I mean, the worst thing that you could ever run into is an opponent who normal summons 1 and sets 5. It's just intimidating, man. So moving on, the first card for back row hate that I think any Yu-Gi-Oh player should be siding, Dust Tornado. Dust Tornado is just target 1 spell or trap, destroy it, and then nobody seems to ever do the second effect. Then you can set 1 spell or trap card from your hand. In my personal opinion, I think that's a really good second effect. I mean, obviously back row hate in this format's amazing. Let's just get right to it. The Fire Fist, they activate Tenki, Dust Tornado. Tenzin, waste their first normal summon, Dust Tornado. Tensu, if they didn't activate it during damage calculation, Dust Tornado. Like, come on. why would you not want to use Dust Tornado? It just pops any back row during the end phase. You can pop your opponent's back row that they just set. You don't have to worry about it next turn. So, Dust Tornado, I think, is a pretty standard card. Now, let me give you a really good scenario with Dust Tornado. A lot of us have those really good trap cards. Some trap cards like we want to use on our turn to get some really good plays off, but we don't want to set it during our first turn because we don't want our opponent to pop it. So we kind of live in fear that if we set it, it's going to get sent straight to the graveyard. I mean, of course, some cards you can chain them, but what about cards that are like destroyed during the end phase? You know, like that's not okay. So let me just give you a scenario. Your opponent sets 2 cards. You have 1 MST and 1 Dust Tornado face down. During end phase, you activate both. Dust Tornado, during the end phase of your opponent's turn, will give you the opportunity to set that card that you were afraid of getting popped. Your opponent has no more back row. It's the end phase. What's he going to do about that card? So then you draw, and then you get to use that card with like no fear. It has no back row left. So I think the second effect of Dust Tornado is actually really good. Moving on to the second part of back row hate, which I think is actually one of my personal favorite cards in my side deck, Twister. Twister, you guys, is such a good fucking card. Quick play spell, love that. It's just like MST. Now, I know where some people in the YGO community are coming from, because I personally was against Twister when I first saw it too. I was like, what? Pay 500 life points, destroy 1 face-up spell or trap card. Really simple. Straight to the point. Like, that's the most obvious text I could have ever read on a Yu-Gi-Oh card. So, you activate Twister in response to Tenki against the Fire Fists, the Boojins. Tensen against the Fire Fists. Harpy's Hunting Ground in Hysteric Party versus the Harpy Lady matchup. Use it when your opponent activates Abyss Sphere against Mermails. Use it whenever the fuck you want, guys. Twister's such a fucking good card. Pay 500 life points. You start out with 8,000. 500's nothing. Just do not be Jewish about your life points right now. Destroy 1 face-up spell or trap card. Some people are really turned off with the fact that it has to be face-up. I mean, MST and Dust Tornado can pop face-down back row. Why should I be scared about that? Because you might not always draw them to MST or Dust Tornado. Twister just gives you like an extra ability to draw back row hate. Side 2 in, side 2 Dust Tornado in, have 3 mained MST. There's 7 back row hate right there. I have no idea why you wouldn't be able to pop any back row throughout the entire duel. Use Twister for whatever the hell you want. Face-up continuous spells like the ones I already talked about. Any field spell, Necro Valley, Harpy's Hunting Ground. Any face-up trap card that'll mess you up. You could Twister these guys. You could Twister Macrocosmos. You could Twister Dimensional Fissure. Twister is just honestly a really good card. You can Twister the Skill Drain if the Skill Drain's hurting you. Dragon players can Twister Soul Drain, Mind Drain, get their dragon effects off. Twister, even though it's a face-up spell, I don't think people really realize how many face-up spell or traps are being used in the game right now. So, I don't know, that's just my personal opinion. I think Twister and Dust Tornado, everybody should be running at least 1 or 2 copies in their side deck. I think they're really good cards. Back row hate in this format is eminent, considering that there's back row everywhere. I don't know how many countless duels I've gone into where Fire Fists use all 5 of their spell or trap zones with continuous spells or traps, with people who just summon once, set 3 to 5 back row. It's just not pretty. Boojins go Tenki too. Twister that shit. I have no idea why you wouldn't want to run Twister. There's so many continuous cards in the format right now, in the game right now. It's ridiculous. Anyway, that's my personal opinion. Just a recap of the cards. Twister, Dust Tornado for the back row hate, Macrocosmos, and Dimensional Fissure for just everything else. Just to banish everything. Boojins, Mermails, Dark Worlds, whatever the hell you want to use that shit for. So, anyway, keep in mind, these are all my personal opinions. This is just 4 cards that I think you should side. Obviously, there's a lot of cards that you can side in this format. I just think that these are 4 of the best ones. So feel free to give a suggestion to what you think that I should be citing, or anything. If you disagree with anything that I say, just let me know. Maybe we could just discuss about it. Make sure to comment, like, and subscribe. This is Nico from Team Hydroflare, signing out.